Hello everyone, today is the 2nd of October and Mercury finally is stopping on its celestial course and turning direct. And with this movement, what's happening in the sky is quite interesting because we have a full number of retrograde planets. So by Mercury changing course, this a whole period of retrograde energy, inward magnetic energy is slowly turning. It's not yet the true turning point because by the 8th of October, Pluto will turn direct, and then slowly the rest of these celestial planets are turning direct. But at the moment, at least this is the first step towards the normal motion. Why do I say normal motion? Because of course, the normal course of events should be go straight, go direct, and don't turn back. But because we can't actually observe ellipses from the Earth, it looks as if the planets sometimes would slow down, even almost stop in their celestial course and turn retrograde, and then again stopping and then turning direct. Is this sort of S turn they are making, and it's quite interesting if you actually take a look how these movements are panning out in the sky. You can actually see that sometimes it's really like an S form, and sometimes they make this sort of loop going up and then down again. So there are all kinds of movements, especially Venus is quite interesting because whenever Venus is turning retrograde, which is quite rare, because Venus orbit is almost a perfect circle, so it doesn't need to be retrograde. Sometimes it is, but whenever it is retrograde, it comes up and tries to leave the zodiac, so to speak. So it actually almost goes always out of bounds. Now let's take a look at what is happening in the sky. But before we actually take a look at the retrograde celestial objects, let's talk about what they mean in karmic astrology. In karmic astrology, we have three types of movements. One is when the planets are direct. This is then they are moving in their normal course. Then they are active. It depends on what sign they are in, how they actually work for us. And when they are stationary, it means that they all of a sudden become very strong in their original meaning. It's kind of like when you are in a hurry and you are grabbing your purse and rushing out of your home, and then all of a sudden you stop and try to think, wait a second, where do I go? What do I need? Am I doing the right thing? So it's some sort of reckoning, some sort of strengthening, like, okay, let's stop for a moment and gather forces and gather information. And then when they are retrograde, they start working inward. They start affecting your inner processes, and they are magnetic in their effect, so to speak. They in their original meaning, they change it a little bit by looking inward and trying to find answers within and not without, not in the outside world. So let's take a look at these celestial objects at the moment. So this is the space-time moment for today, because that is the day when Mercury is turning direct. Oh, this is the trend, sorry. Let me go to the beginning of it's the same, by the way, so it's not like, so here's Mercury, and here's the rest of the retrograde celestial objects, quite a few of them, if you take a look. I mean, it's very rare that from Jupiter outward, you have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and Chiron all retrograde. It's really an interesting space-time moment. The whole world is somehow reckoning and turning inward and trying to find answers. And these are serious questions we need to ask, because at the moment, our dear American friends are trying everything in their power to keep this war fueled. And in this way, they are simply destroying Europe. And they are doing it very gladly, because if you consider the whole Europe, okay, if just do yourself a favor and take a look at Europe and Asia, how this huge continent is together, really. You don't really know where the exact borderline between Europe and Asia is. It's usually the Ural mountain. That's the traditional way of looking at it, which is well within Russia. So if you look at the map, it would immediately become obvious that Europe, Russia and China should be one sphere of economic alliance. And of course, this is what the Americans are trying to kill. And they are doing it effectively because we Europeans are idiots and we are led by idiots and we are accepting the directives that the United States is giving us. Yes, the whole idea of this war is really horrible. But we have nothing to do with it. We Europeans have got nothing to do with the Ukrainians or the Russians. And this is the key. And at the same time, we are dragged into it and we are suffering the consequences. The best would be to utilize European know-how and combine it with Russian cheap energy and cheap resources. And that's what the European economic wonder produced in the last 40, 50 years, and this is being destroyed at the moment. So let's take a look at these retrograde planets and let's see how they work inwardly and what they can help us. As I said, Mercury now is stationary and it's turning direct today, or by the evening we can say that it's already a direct Mercury, which means that all of a sudden we understand a lot of stuff. And so the soul searching from within is no longer there, but the understanding and the aha feeling and the fact that I can finally say what I want to say is there. Jupiter currently is in Aries, so Jupiter enlarges everything it touches. And of course, in Aries, it escalated the war and escalated violence, and now it's turning. It is retrograde, and it is moving almost for sure back to Pisces. So it's revisiting Pisces and the Piscean withdrawal energy, and also the emotional energy there. But at the moment, it's still in Aries. So it's fueling the war cry, it's fueling the war energy. And at the same time, by the fact that it is retrograde, it allows us to look really at war as it is. Saturn is in Aquarius. It will be there for another 1.5 years. And why it is in Aquarius, it is ruled by Uranus. But of course, in the old ages, I mean, in traditional astrology, Saturn also rules Aquarius, which I always found kind of interesting, to say the least. But in modern times, of course, it is ruled by Uranus, disruption, and Saturn in the sign of Aquarius tries to solidify and give structure to certain ideas that are really disruptive and revolutionary. And this is exactly what's happening. So if you look at what the World Economic Forum wants us to become, that you won't own nothing, but you will be happy. How can you be as a human being happy if you don't own anything? It's quite an interesting thought. But that's what they want to do. They want to disrupt the economic well-being in a way that you really lose everything, and then if you lose everything, you will accept world government and this whole woke idea, which is truly ridiculous. They have tried this a couple of times already. Look at Cuba, look at the Soviet Union. I lived in the socialist country for half my life, so I know what it is. I know how it works. It doesn't work. The moment you take away either personal achievement or personal belongings, the people don't care anymore, and they won't do anything. So this is just another smokescreen towards world power that they want to achieve. And then Uranus is in Taurus, disrupting our harmony, our well-being, our financial basis. It did this 84 years ago, there was the economic crisis at that point. And actually, if you look at the 20th century period, all you had was wars, really, two-world war and economic war and economic crisis. And that's exactly continuing, unfortunately. So Uranus is disrupting everything that we hold dear to our hearts: security, financial well-being, harmony, love. That's all destroyed. And now that it is retrograde, we can actually see the movement. We can see these processes, and we can understand how they try to disrupt everything. Neptune in Pisces is in its own sign. It will be there for a couple of more years, actually 1.5 years again. By 2024, everything will change sign. So that will be an interesting turning point in history. But at the moment, Neptune is very strong in its own sign. It actually amplifies our dreams and premonitions and esoteric thinking and all sorts of not realistic, not graspable reality. So we can look behind graspable reality and understand what is going on. Pluto in Capricorn, it has been in Capricorn for more than a decade, is trying to transform rigid power structure. What's the problem? That it is ruled by Saturn. So it's not very, very efficient, or not very successful, to say the least. So simply by traveling in Saturn's sign, Pluto is not very effective, simply because the load of karma is keeping it overpowered, so to speak. But at the same time, when it will move into Aquarius, then it will be ruled by Uranus. And I think that this woke idea that is very, very fashionable at the moment will amplify. So before it's going to be better, unfortunately it's going to be worse. All ideologies need to be practiced and seen how they work in practice before they could actually die, and people could actually realize that it is totally unnatural not to own anything. It's totally unnatural to say that there is an equality of outcome, which is always ridiculous, because if there is an equality, that's equality of outcome. It means that personal achievement doesn't mean anything, and it's not going to be it's not going to help us if we have personal achievements, because if there is another person who gets the same exact things without even trying to achieve anything, then why shall I bother, actually? So that's equity right there for you. Anyhow, and we will experience this type of equity, this what Jordan Peterson calls DIE, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's DIE. It means that we will die if we follow these notions. And before we realize, we humankind, we people, we realize how stupid all this is. Before we actually can do that, we can actually suffer through it. So unfortunately, this is what the sign changes of the outer planets will mean, in my opinion. Anyhow, Chiron is in Aries. This is the sign where Chiron is at its longest. It stays 12 years in Aries. And of course, because Chiron describes our karmic wounds, and Aries denotes wars and aggression and fire and pain and violence. And those are the sources of human pain. Those are the main sources of human pain. And now with retrograde Chiron, we can actually look at it and see if this is really what we want. And how many times do we want to live through war, which is a negative sum total? No one, actually, not even the people who win have any positive outcome of war. And that's something we need to understand, and we need to make other people understand. Maybe with this retrograde motion, we will be able to. And then you have Aries and Sedna, two important karmic astrological bodies. Aries is drastically altered outward circumstances, and of course it has been in Aries for quite a while. The whole 20th and 21st century is about Aries and Aries, and that is why you have such horrible violence and destruction in these decades. And Sedna, creation through dissection, is in Taurus, at the end of Taurus. It will move into Gemini in 2024, but at the moment it's still in Taurus. Sedna has more than 12,000 year orbit, 12,500 year orbit, which means that it should stay approximately 1,000 years in each sign. But instead, both in Aries and in Taurus, it only spent about 100 years, which means that it's at the moment very, very fast moving. But it's still quite slow, I mean, in normal standards. And it denotes creation through dissection. In Taurus, it dissects our well-being, our harmony, our sense of value, and we need to throw out the non-working segments of our lives and need to put together something that is more workable and understandable for us. That is what's happening. And then you have 3 asteroids as well, which are retrograde. Juno, the official wife, the first lady. So you can actually reflect on your marriage, on your partnerships, on what you want in a partnership and what you can offer in a partnership. Astrea, which is karma breaking, so you can reflect on how to break old embedded non-working karma energies. And then Vesta, the focusing principle, which in conjunction with Saturn denotes oaths and promises. Those are, again, energies that you can reflect from the inward. And Mercury was stopping on its celestial course at 24 degrees, 25 degrees Virgo. And this 24 to 26 degrees of the signs has been prominent in recent months and weeks. All my videos usually show you 1 or 2 complex planetary pictures in this. And really, there are 2 fingers of fate. If you allow a little bigger orb for the 30 degree for the semi-sextile, then you have actually 2 boomerangs. Okay, one is the finger of fate, Lilith, Pluto, and Neptune. That's one. Okay, Lilith, revolt against injustice, is at its apex. And then the other one, which is a true boomerang, is a Mercury, Neptune, and Vesta. And that is, again, showing the understanding, the processes of understanding the whole. And then you have 2 engines. One is a cardinal Earth engine, Mercury, Pluto, and Aries. The Pluto-Aries square is tightening again once more. Now that Pluto will soon turn direct, the square will be again separating, but it's still there at the moment. And then the cardinal fire engine is Lilith, Aries, and Pluto. So here's the fire engine. And at the same time, you have a little angel wing. At the apex, you have Neptune, transcendence, and you have Aries, Vesta, focusing on drastically altered outward circumstances. So that is the complex planetary picture at the degree where Mercury is turning direct. So the whole thing is moved by Mercury in a way, understanding. And here are the transcendental celestial objects. These are almost the same as they were a couple of weeks ago. With Mercury, we do have 2 new ones, Aten and Tyr. Tyr is the war god of the Norse gods, and Aten is the sun disk, understanding, illumination. Neptune has philosophia, so there is a lot of philosophy flying around. Markab, which is Alpha Pegasus, it denotes ideas that are springing out of your mind and great ideas that can help you understand the world. And I put here Okiro. I didn't put it in here because it's a bit wide. It's about 2 degrees of there. Neptune will turn direct, and then it will reach Okiro again in a couple of weeks. At the moment, it's still a bit wide. Okiro is Chariklo and Chiron's daughter, little centaur girl, the daughter of the two centaurs. As you may remember, Chariklo is the wife of Chiron, and she turned herself into a female centaur. But originally she's a nymph, but she wanted to marry Chiron, and their offspring inherited both their abilities. She is a seer, an oracle, but the problem is that she tells things, she blurts out things that she's not supposed to, and the fates are constantly punishing her. And in order to avoid punishment, she turns herself into a horse and forgets to talk. So, and it denotes things that we know, but we can't actually use or utilize or utter, because we are going to be punished by it. So that's on Neptune, which means that Neptune is always about insight and esoteric knowledge, and also all kinds of transcendence and transcendental energies. And Oki Roche suggests that no matter how well you understand the world around yourself, you can't actually say because you're being punished, because the woke mob will slaughter you. That's exactly what's happening, no matter what what we see. I don't really care. Luckily, I'm old enough not to care, and I have my own existence and my own being, so to speak, and I really don't care what other people think about me. I'm very happy if you watch my videos. I'm very happy if you like them, but I don't really care if you think you can cancel me, because no, you can't cancel me, luckily. But the word is different. The word out there means that you need to comply. If you don't comply with the woke mob, you are going to be not just cancelled but slaughtered. So that's exactly what's happening here, even though you might see perfectly well what's happening. On Pluto, you have Amicus, you know, the centaur who doesn't care for sacred things. He grabs a candelabra and starts fighting with it. So it's the saint and the profane mingle together. And I don't care what is saint to you, I will fight no matter what. And then on Vesta, we have Damocles. You might remember that's the sword that is above us. Krantor, a centaur that denotes to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, suffering through things that are not our karma. That's exactly what's happening in Europe, by the way, that we are pushed into this horrible state of poverty that is looming around us, fuel poverty, food poverty. Look what's happening in England at the moment. People are up in arms, and they're rightly so, and rightly doing that. And then two fixed stars which have been there again for quite a while. Sadal Sud, which is Beta Aquarius, the luckiest of the luckiest, and then Danab Algadi, which is the foot of the celestial Capricorn, being the steadiness, strength, and endurance. That's what it's usually linked to it. And then on Lilith, you have 4 asteroids: Isis, the goddess, the mother goddess, Dione, who was the first wife of Zeus, and it denotes a young and innocent love. Apophis, the serpent that is swallowing the sun, so it's actually disaster looming above us. And Sisyphus, which denotes completely futile and hard work. And that's exactly what's happening in Europe at the moment. Happy October. Soon, these retrograde planets will slowly turn direct. Mercury is starting the whole process, and luckily, it will help us understand what is going on in the world. Thank you for listening, and happy October. Bye-bye.